Welcome to the Stronger, Fitter, Happier podcast. I'm your host Vin, and today we're discussing something we are all going through. Well, we're all going through if you're in the UK. So what I mean is, we are in lockdown too. So that brings its own difficulties when it comes to your fitness, your health, and your well-being. So that's what we're talking about in today's episode. How to survive lockdown 2 and come out stronger, fitter, and happier than you were going into it. Yeah, so back with another podcast, aren't you?
Yes, it's been a couple of weeks without one, thanks to Mr. Patel.
Has it already been 2 weeks? I thought it was only 1 week that we missed.
It's been, I think, 2 weeks since we did one all together. I put one up last week, but I had to use the live recording I did in that Facebook group.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we did put out an episode last week, but not one where we recorded, and then we missed a week because of half term where I couldn't record. But
Were you on half term?
What was that?
Is it because of half term?
It's because my daughter was home. Sky was home, okay. So a bit noisy in the house. Like basically, the podcasts get recorded on the day she goes nursery, isn't it? So that way, it's a quiet household, and you maybe get the washing machine noise because I have to do it in the living room. In the kitchen, and you might get a few noises from a baby and my partner moving around because I can't tell them to be completely silent.
Yeah.
This is the life of 2020 where everyone's working from home and doing things from home. So
I know, it's weird, isn't it?
Well, this is what today's episode is all about. Talking about lockdown 2, because that's what we're in again, aren't we? So
yeah, unfortunately.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, really. How do you guys feel about lockdown 2 in the UK? For anyone who doesn't know, we have a few American listeners. We're in something called a lockdown, which means that we have to abide by some rules set out by the government, where we have to stay home. Businesses have been ordered to shut, which is one of ours. So gyms, non-essential stores are all shut. And it's supposed to be for 4 weeks. And Mr. Boris has promised that it will be for 4 weeks, but we shall see, because the last one was meant to be 3 weeks, ended up being 4 months.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, but that was a lot worse. Like, there was a lot more restrictions in place, wasn't it? Like, you were literally indoors and nothing else. Like,
there was a lot more restriction.
Yeah, there was.
This feels a little bit different this time, no? Is it just me? Yeah. It's like, it doesn't feel like the first one where it was like lockdown.
I agree. And I also feel like now, like, remember before they said to us, you can only go out once a day for some activity. Yeah. It's not like that at the moment. It's very different. And I think we're used to it. We've been here before and it was a lot worse. I think this time is definitely a little bit easier.
Yeah, I think people's mindsets around this lockdown is probably a little bit like, they're a bit more like, oh, it's just, just get on with it kind of thing. Whereas the first one is a bit like, this is really draconian. Like, because obviously no one expected it.
Yeah.
And the measures, no one had experienced that kind of measures in their life where who's ever told you you're not, like, apart from your parents, like, who's told you when you're not allowed to leave the house?
Yeah.
So true. I remember I was always saying before, though, it's something you would literally read about in a book. Like, you never actually expect to go through it. End of the world style
thing, isn't it? Like,
yes.
Like zombies have taken over and you have to stay indoors and you can only go out once a day to get supplies and stuff like that. It's like that.
I literally felt like that. I was like, are we actually experiencing this and living this life right now? It's crazy.
How do you guys feel overall? Like, I know you said that it's not as bad as last time, but how do you feel about it generally? Like, when it was announced, what were your thoughts?
What, for this lockdown 2.0? Do you know what? It didn't bother me that much. I think because from the previous lockdown, obviously that was a lot worse. And I know you couldn't go out for dinners and stuff like that, and we can't now. But it's not something I do very often anyway. And work, I'm used to doing online work. So I think that to me is like the new norm now anyway. So I actually think it's not that bad. I'm coping with it really well, as long as it's only 4 weeks.
Yeah. For me, it never felt like, the interim period that we had between the last one and this one, it was very much like we didn't go back to normal life, right? It wasn't all back to normality. So it was a smooth transition, I think. I don't know. This is like the new normal, it feels like for me now. I can't even remember what it's like to just like go and do whatever you want sort of thing. Like, it's like, oh, when you go out to the shops, it's like, damn, have I got my mask with me? Rather than thinking like, have I got my wallet and stuff like that? It's just like mask, like it's like a different set of rules now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's true.
I think for you two, the experience is probably very different compared to me, because in the first lockdown, I was shielding. So like, I was a bit more strict in terms of like, I was a bit paranoid almost because of the way things were explained to me. Like, you should have seen the NHS letter. It was so scary. Like, it's like, don't even leave the house to put your bins out. If you have to put your bins out, like, avoid people. And like, it was like, get fresh air from a window as opposed to going out. Like, literally, it was that alarming, the letter, as if like, come into contact with someone, you're gonna die. Like, it's as if it was written like that. And maybe that's how I perceived it, but I don't know. It got me very paranoid about like, you know, like when people would, because like we were shielding, we couldn't go out, people would drop like food to us and things like that. Like, if we couldn't get it on a food shop. So when my mum would drop stuff to our door, like it was almost like, I don't know, like I felt uncomfortable around my own family and people I care about. So this time it's very different for me because I'm a lot more relaxed. But at the same time, because I haven't been going out to eat, you know, when restaurants open, I still haven't done that. Shops open, I've been to the shop maybe twice, like in terms of food shop, since the last
since March.
Lockdown. So like for me, it's like life's not much, like nothing's really changed from this lockdown. The only difference is that I can still drop my daughter to nursery.
How long was the period between the last lockdown and this? It's only since August to now, so 2 months we had, and then it's back in
March.
No, I mean like when they officially said lockdown is over.
Eased, yeah. That was August, I'm sure.
Beginning of
there
August.
was some slow measures that we were allowed to, like, you know, like they were like, oh, you can meet with people outdoors and go to people's houses, but in the garden. Then it was like you can go inside, and then it was back to rule of 6, and now obviously you can't see anyone again.
Oh yeah.
So the measures have been a bit different, haven't they? Like, so I think it might have been like that, but like, I don't know, the changes have been very gradual. But
I don't know, I think especially this time around, I think we're just kind of ready for it and we're kind of used to it. Like a lot of us before had to adapt and start training at home. We're kind of used to doing that now again. Like I know it was a bit of a tease being able to go back to gyms and stuff like that. So obviously them shutting again is a bit of a shitty situation, but we're used to it. I think we can easily adapt and go back to training at home and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask actually. How do you feel like it's going to impact your like well-being and nutrition and fitness and that side of things?
I think because I figured out a really good routine on the previous lockdown, and because obviously we were at home for so long, I know now what worked before and what I can put in place this time. So like training for me last time, it's not the same, and what's hard actually is obviously the last lockdown the weather was nice. So I could train outside, you want to go for walks. Whereas now it's darker in the evenings, it's cold, it's rain. So having that motivation, I feel like already I'm thinking, oh, like, I hope I'm still going to train. I hope I'm still going to get my walks in and stuff like that. But I think it's just finding a routine with all of that and keeping that going.
Yeah. I feel like lockdowns, I don't know, I feel like they go one of two ways for people. Like you either, when you speak to friends, family, and just people in general, like the first lockdown was either like they found fitness and they got their routine and either nailed it or they were completely at the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
It's almost like there's no in between with people.
Yeah, there was no...
People I've spoken to, it's like, like you're saying, like either they're on it with like their well-being, their nutrition, their fitness, their health, and they've like able to like create some sort of radical change, and then there's another side of things where like lockdowns cause people to really lose their fitness and their strength, and then they've gained loads of weight, and you hear two sides of the coin. Like some people have come to us after lockdown saying I need your support now because I don't want to go back to my habits pre-lockdown, because they did really well. And then there were some people like, I need to get rid of my lockdown weight. Yeah, it's strange how that's like there was no sort of in between. It was two extremes. Some people were really, really sort of on it, or people fell off. But in terms of my own sort of training and stuff, I'm with you completely. It's like it was so much easier in the summer, like training in the garden, going like yesterday I went for a run and it was in the rain.
I had to force myself to do it. Well, not force myself, but it's just that it's just something that I created for myself. Actually, as soon as it was announced, I pretty much planned out the 4 weeks and when I was going to do things. And it just so happened that Monday is the day that I go for a run. So I just stuck with it and did it, even though it was in the rain. But yeah, it's just,
I think it's good that you said you've already kind of planned out. I know it's 4 weeks, and 4 weeks, it could be extended, who knows? But I think it's really good that you've already planned out those 4 weeks. So hopefully it kind of, that motivates you then to do everything that you need to do.
Yeah.
I think for people, training wise, it'll probably be a bit longer than 4 weeks, because you know how it was last time, like gyms didn't open straight away. So while measures may, reduce in terms of like strictness of like what we can do and can't do, I think people should have in their mind that they may be working out from home for maybe a bit longer than 4 weeks. Hopefully not, but it might be the case.
Yeah. I think it's important, like you say, to do that, actually think of it that it might be longer, so that at least then you're not kind of let down when they say, oh, it's going to be 8 weeks or so and so till the gyms reopen. At least you've kind of prepared for that. Vinay, how do you feel like you are with your training, like especially over this lockdown? I know it's just started, but how are you with that? And
well, I didn't go, like, as in I didn't go back to the gyms like you guys did straight away. I slowly eased into it, and it was fine, and adapted and stuff. But I've got someone who writes a program for me rather than me doing it myself, so it's very easy just to follow the plan rather than worrying and thinking about what am I going to do. So it's like getting organized, like you said. I haven't had to get organized because someone's been organized for me. And then it's just literally a case of following the plan. The only thing is, I guess, finding motivation to train. You guys have like, so you guys have like probably a little bit easier to dedicate time to yourself because you live at home still, like in terms of with your parents and stuff, and you don't kind of have to work around your family dynamics so much. You can still do your own thing. So in terms of like, for me, it's being a bit more strategic of when to train. So I would love to say I wake up in the morning and I do it and I get it done before my like partner and children are awake. But the only issue with that is, what do I prioritize? Because what I like to do is do my work before then. So I used to train at that time, but now I like kind of think it's probably easier to get work done and train around them, like while they're around. So I try and get while like my daughter's been going nursery, I try and get my workouts in. So I train about 3 days a week, and I try and get them all done on the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday when she goes to nursery. But that was when I was at the gym, because I could drop her and then go to the gym. But now it's a little bit easier to fit in a workout. The motivation side of things is probably the harder bit, in terms of like being like, oh, shit, I can't be asked to start it. Because when you're out of the house, it's easier to start a workout. But now it's a little bit more difficult to get it started. But I think it's a case of building momentum. Like, so once you get into a routine of it and you keep going with it, then it's easier to do it. Like, once you do it, the difficulty is when you break. So for example, I didn't go to the gym for the last couple of weeks because I had a bit of a cold. So I didn't want to pass that cold to people. I know you can, if you don't have if you don't have COVID, you could still carry on about your life as normal, and most people did back in the day. But I just see it as like, why give someone else a cold when you don't need to? Like the same way you wouldn't purposely give COVID to someone if you knew you had it. I don't know, like before, like I wouldn't even think anything of a cold, but now I think, like, why give it to someone else? Like, why go to the gym? So I didn't go to the gym, and I tried to train from home. I missed a few days because I felt a bit shitty in terms of like body weakness and that sort of thing. So it lost that momentum. So getting started yesterday, while I was like excited to get started because I had, I took some dumbbells from where we run our sessions and, took some of the equipment that wasn't being used during the lockdown. I was like, oh yeah, I'm excited to use some heavy weights at home and that sort of thing. But once I got started, I was like, oh, this is hard. I'm struggling. And I had to kind of tell myself, like, if you stop now, it's just going to be harder the next time. Whereas the next time will be a little bit easier if you just get this one done. And I guess I have to keep that in mind going forward. Like today, it would be very easy to just go, can't be bothered with a workout because I haven't built up a good run of it yet.
Yeah.
So I've got one day in the bank. So this one's still just as hard to get started with. But if I get started, the next one will be a little bit easier. It's a good tip for anyone who's like new to training. It's always difficult at the start. Just build some momentum and keep going.
Yeah. It's like yesterday, I took about an hour contemplating if I was going to train or not. I don't know why. And I wanted to train because it was the beginning of the week. And I was fine if I skip Monday. I've just got this thing that I feel like if I skip that day, my rest of my week isn't going to go so well. So like with nutrition, with training, I like to start my week on the right foot and then continue that. And yesterday I was debating for like an hour, do I train or there's other days in the week? And eventually I did do it, but it took a lot of just thinking, whereas I should have just got it done and not even thought about it. But now that I've already started the week that way, I went for my walk, I made good nutrition decisions. So it will be easier now to kind of keep that going forward for the rest of the week and hopefully for the rest of the kind of lockdown.
I think at home it's a little bit difficult, a little bit more difficult, should I say, to get that. I don't know why, it's just harder to get started with a workout at home.
It's because of I think it's because of environment, like how you're more productive in an office for work, for example, potentially like in a quiet space, and then when you go to the gym, it's just that environment where you've got other people potentially working out around you. It's that sort of, you're putting yourself in a place where you're there to do a certain activity, whereas at home it's a chill vibe, right? Home is for chilling, relaxing with your family, so maybe you can't pull yourself to
it's actually literally what you said. It's that single, it's the home is normally a purpose for something else. Like when you go to the gym, all you can do is work out. Do you get what I mean? Like, because that's what you use it for. So I guess to people, creating like an area that's a home workout area is probably a good one to do. So like a dedicated space. Like I try not to eat where I work. Like I sit at the breakfast bar. I never try to eat there. I do end up eating there sometimes, but I try not to eat there right now, so I don't think about food when I'm working. Like I used to work at the dinner table, but now I stopped working at the dinner table because the dinner table is for dinner, like, or lunch or whatever. Like I try to keep that as a dedicated space. Like I have this rule that try not to use my phone in bed. If I need to do something for my phone, I get out of bed and I literally go into the toilet and do it, and then get back in bed. Or we don't have a TV in our bedroom. We have a TV, we just don't use it in our bedroom. We got rid of it now, actually. We were selling loads of shit in the lockdown, in the first lockdown. Yes, we don't actually have it but we never used the TV in the bedroom because it's like, bedroom is for sleep. So that when you go there and you do it, you kind of just you ease into that thing because you've created that single purpose environment. Like if you make the kitchen for cooking rather than for eating, it will be easier for you to not snack in the kitchen.
Yeah, I agree. I think for all of those things, for sleep, nutrition, training, having that dedicated space and environment and creating that environment is really help you stay on track.
Yeah. So some of the things I wanted to discuss in this podcast was about like how people can, we've obviously touched on it already, but like how people can stay on track and, you know, keep going with like nutrition and training and like well-being. Like what are you guys going to be doing in terms of like, you've mentioned about training, you've got a routine in place, you're going to try and keep going with it and keep that momentum and try to keep a rhythm of what you're doing before, but how are you going to adapt your training to suit home? Like, because you guys have weights and stuff, so it's a bit unfair for that advice, but like how are you going to adapt generally?
I think because like even for me yesterday, even like I know you said I've got equipment, but lack of equipment as well. And a lot of people at home either have nothing or they have maybe some bands and stuff like that. And what I've done, like yesterday, I set myself a specific amount of time. So I knew, okay, look, I've only got half an hour to get this done. And I just try to like to create like a circuit-based training style and just do as many sets of things as I could. So I knew that half an hour is easy to fit in. Some of you listening might even have maybe 20 minutes or an hour, whatever it may be. But set yourself a specific time and know, okay, that's what I'm going to dedicate to my training. And I feel like limiting rest and doing more of a circuit style can actually help increase intensity without having a lot of equipment to hand. yeah, so that's what I did yesterday, and it worked really well for me.
Yeah. So mine's a little bit different because at the start of the year, I also work with someone who writes my programs with me, and we together decided that it would be the first time ever that I go properly into a muscle building phase. And then obviously with the gyms closing 3 months into that, I was kind of like stuck because I couldn't create some of the same sort of stimuli that I would in the gym. So this lockdown, I'm kind of shifting my focus in my training. So it's not so much worrying about the muscle building, but to basically improve my cardiovascular and improve my mobility. So a lot of my training program now, rather than focusing on muscle building, is based around that sort of thing that you're saying as well, circuits, and just working on things that will put me in a good position that when gyms do open back up, I'm in a great position to rebuild muscle. So yeah, it's just a little bit different, and shifting focus, basically working with a new goal for the set amount of time that I have.
That's actually a really good point, and it's what we've done with the program that we've designed for all of our team, in terms of like Nokiro is a program that we designed to be an intensity block as opposed to like one that's focused on strength. So it's maintaining strength, but in focusing on improving intensity, recovery between sets, and building up people's work capacities in terms of like what they can do with their heart rate, how high they can go with it, how well they can recover from it. And we've used it as like that kind of training. And then when gyms do open, we can focus more on strength, and they're bringing their heart rate back down kind of thing, and working in a different capacity so that their recovery between sets is different then. And obviously they don't know, and they probably don't care about that stuff, but they're just getting a really good workout in. But I think if you try to train the way you train in a gym, if you did train in a gym, then you're going to struggle, because you're going to be constantly fighting against something you don't want to do. So you're like, I don't know, if you want to create enough of load and you don't have the weights, like you may have to change the way you're training, or like do more like endurance style training and that sort of thing, like with higher reps and less resistance, and maybe focus on cardio and that sort of thing, like change your focus. I think another good point is something that I did in the first lockdown is break up your training into blocks and sections. So like if normally you train for an hour and the start is the warm up, you don't have to do it just when you're about to work out. So you could do your mobility in the morning when you wake up, then you could do the main part of your workout for 20 minutes when you have time in the day. Then let's say you finish off a core every time, or a finisher or a cardio or something, and you could do that later. Like you don't have to do it all at one time, especially if you've got the whole day and you're at home. It breaks up your day a little bit, and it means that also, you train 3 times, one for 10 minutes, one for 20 minutes, and one for 10 minutes.
I think that's a really good point, especially for people that are busy or have kids and they don't have a whole hour to dedicate in one go. Like for you, Vinay, you've got Sky, you've got Elle. So it's nice having that time where you can, okay, I can just squeeze 15 minutes there, I can do 20 minutes there, I can do 10 minutes there. So that's a really good kind of tip for those of you who are quite busy listening and who do have a family and kids and stuff like that.
Yeah, so it's a lot more difficult to work around when you have a lot more people to like take into consideration. So that I was gonna say that's good advice for like people who already train or work out, but often lockdown brings people like more time. So if you have been furloughed and you're not working, or you are at home a bit more, it does kind of bring you a little bit of time to play with. So for anyone who has more time on their hands right now, what would you say to them? Like, how would you basically say like, this is what you can do to, I don't know, get him into training? Like what advice would you give to someone who's just about to start with looking after their fitness and health? You've gone blank, put you on the spot.
I literally have gone blank.
It depends. It depends on the sort of individual as well. So some people want to go in all guns blazing and like, you know, completely start off with like throwing themselves into the program. Other people like sort of easing themselves into it. But I would say just find some form of activity that you can do in the capacity of lockdown and starting with that. I hate to sort of categorize it and say you must do this type of training or that type of training. I think it's anything that's somewhat enjoyable to you, or not somewhat enjoyable, but enjoyable to you and easy for you to do at home, and start with that. But again, build the momentum up. Yeah.
I think actually, you know, remember in previous lockdown when everyone started running, and it was like, I think everyone started doing it because everyone had time on their hands, and no one really before had the time to put into it. And I even started running, and that's just not like me. And I think it's really important to use this time now for things like that you maybe haven't had the time to start before, but you've always wanted to, because now you've got the opportunity to get better at something.
It's like a personal challenge almost.
Yeah, exactly. Like I started with the running and I soon kind of
dipped off.
Stopped. But like Nikhil, for you, it's something you've kept up with, right?
Yeah, I started it, and I kept up for it throughout the whole 3 months. Then when gyms reopened, I didn't go for two months, but now I've started it back up. So yeah, I did lose a bit of time. Like my time wasn't as good as when we finished lockdown, but yeah, it's still good. I still like it. It's pretty enjoyable. It started off as a chore, but now I actually really do enjoy going out for a run, believe it or not.
I'd say for people who are new as well, just try not to put too much pressure on yourself, like to do too much at one time. Just maybe get into a routine of doing something, whether it's finding like a YouTube video and just doing some mobility work and stretching, finding like a video where you're doing a home workout that's not too long, but just doing it regularly. Build consistency rather than trying to do too much at the start.
Yeah, it's very easy to compare yourself to potentially like your mate or a family member who maybe have been training for a long time, and you're just starting out and thinking like, oh, why can't I do what they're doing, sort of thing. But just remember that you're potentially at different places.
And also comparing yourself to yourself. Like I struggled in the first lockdown because I was like, oh, I trained 5 days a week before. I could barely get 3 sessions in now. And it was like kind of almost like, because you kind of create an identity, isn't it? Like, especially personal trainers, you associate your identity as a person to like someone who is fit and works out. And then when that kind of is taken away from you, you're a bit like, you struggle to control that you're, I don't know, it's like almost like a battle, isn't it? So just letting go of that and just, you know, this is a start point as opposed to what you were doing before is something to remember.
Yeah.
With those that are new to training as well, one thing I would definitely say is make sure you're not putting too much on your plate. And what I mean by that is an analogy I use for everyone who like is starting with anything new or trying to achieve a goal is like, imagine a plate, people pile it upwards. But if you look at it as like like it's not a 3D object. Like when I say plate, I mean your daily time. Don't look at it as something you can do loads of things off and you have to like get through the pile of things and work downwards. Look at it as like the plate is a 24-hour clock, and each like section on the plate is an hour of the day. Like you can only fill the plate until it's a full complete circle. You can't pile stuff on top because you're not going to get it done. You have to look at like your 24 hours in the day. How much of that is dedicated to sleep? How much is that dedicated to your work? To looking after your kids, spending time with your partner? Then if you only have a small segment left, like choose what you're going to do with it. Like you can't choose things like I'm going to watch TV, or I'm going to be able to cook, or I'm going to learn a new course or do something new like that. Like you have to pick what you're going to pick if you only have a decent amount of time. So look at what you're doing in the day, audit it, take things away, add new things in. Don't just add loads of stuff. Otherwise you're just going to fail because you don't have the time. You're trying to pile stuff on top of a already full plate. So it's something that you should be really mindful of when you're trying to add something new in.
Yeah, and I think as well, try and keep it simple. Sometimes like with nutrition, with training, and just try and keep things simple and do what you can and what you can sustain, especially over the lockdown. Like Renee said, don't put too much on your plate and just keep it kind of with what you can sustain.
Yeah, and also get help if you need it. If you don't know what to do to work out at home, and you know that you're someone who's not just going to follow a YouTube video and you need a bit more accountability, get that, like, pay for a program, follow something that's sign up to something and like do something that involves you actually being accountable and like having to do something rather than just going, I'm gonna do this and just hope for the best. Like have have a clear plan of action. When it comes to, so that's like, we gave a lot of training tips. Like with nutrition, a lot of people are going to struggle over lockdown, and some people won't because they're not eating out as much. They've got more time to cook and that sort of thing. So what advice would you guys share? Like, how are you going to be managing your own nutrition?
I would say for someone, especially with people that have families and kids and stuff like that, trying to cook things for the whole family so everyone can have together, rather than, sometimes people cook one meal for their kids and then they cook something for themselves. So trying to make things that everyone can eat. And also like batch cooking and preparing your week ahead so that it's easier for you to stay on track. And so, for example, you make your dinner, batch cook a few days worth of things or something that you can have for lunch the next day, so you don't have to think about actually cooking every day. And having things that are easy for you to kind of get to. So lots of salad and veg already cut up in the fridge and fruit and all that ready. So you don't even have to kind of think about it. It's just there. So like it just makes it easier for you to kind of keep going and make the right choices as well.
I think one tip I would definitely share for anyone before, like, if they struggle with things like snacking, especially with things like Diwali and Christmas coming up, like if you're someone who's gonna, every Christmas you destroy biscuits or mince pies or whatever, like, or when it comes to like Indian snacks like that are usually made around Diwali time, and you're someone who's going to be doing it, you're going to make it because you want your kids to eat it, you want your family to eat it, and you want to give it out to people and that sort of thing. Fine, that's fine. Just be mindful of like what your triggers are. So if like for me, I know that if I can see something in a clear jar, like if like a biscuit jar was clear and I can see the biscuits all the time, I would eat them more regularly than I would if they were in a tin that you can't see inside of. And I know that sounds really strange, but it's like out of sight, out of mind kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it works even better with like Indian snacks and stuff. Like I know that savory foods rather than sweet foods are like my downfall. So like chevro, or what English people may know as Bombay mix kind of thing, is something that I could destroy. And that is something that I either won't keep in the house, even if someone's made it for me, or put it away in a cupboard or something. And that way it's like less likely to get eaten. Otherwise it's like you're almost just testing your willpower every day, and eventually that muscle will, that it's going to fatigue and you're just going to not have enough willpower because you've used it all up.
Yeah, like you said, there's only so long that you can ride out sort of resisting. Like day 1 resist it, day 2 resist it. By the time day 5 comes out, you're just going to want it, like sort of thing.
Yeah, so just either don't have it in the house or just like completely hide it, or make it a bit more of a step. So what I mean by making it a bit more of a step is like say you put it on the top shelf and you have to get a step out to literally get to it. It gives you maybe 30 seconds extra to stop yourself from doing it.
Like, I can't be asked sort of
there's
thing.
Three things
think about
that you have
you really
to
need
do.
it.
Yeah, because like you have to go get the step, put it in place, then climb it, then take it down, then put it back again. Like you're gonna be like, do I really want it? Do I need to eat this? Whereas if it was on the side, it doesn't give you enough time to just go, let me just grab that biscuit or whatever it is and mindlessly snack on it. Go on.
What would you say for people then who, so if you do want to have these kind of foods, how would you say that they can control their way of maybe having these foods and not letting it go out of control? So is there any tips that you have?
So mindfulness. And I know that sounds a bit hippie, and I think Nikki will be able to touch on this a bit more than I will, but conscious eating is what I'm talking about when I say mindfulness, not like meditating around food and stuff. Like it's not a hippie concept. I literally mean when you're eating something, think about eating. Like think about what you're eating. I don't mean like like take your time and eat slowly and that all those tips are good, but what I literally mean is like rather than grabbing a snack and eating in front of the TV and just destroying a pack of hula hoops or pack of biscuits or whatever it is, think about eating as opposed to like, don't do two things. Think about what you're doing. Like,
rather associating it with
like go like, oh, like say you're having a snack, eat the snack and go like, oh, do I need another one? Is the second one gonna support my goals? How can I can I enjoy this a bit more and make it a bit more of experience, as opposed to like destroying one and then go, that didn't satisfy me, I need another one.
Yeah.
When it comes to snacking as well, like a really like cool sort of question that I've started asking myself, because I can snack sometimes as well, and this is just based around like mindless snacking. I ask myself, am I really hungry? Could I eat an apple right now? Because if I could eat an apple, that means like I'm actually hungry and I want to eat. So if it's like, nah, I don't want an apple, I just want a packet of crisps, you're technically, it might just be that, it's a craving. So that's the first step, like to sort of mindful eating. But then just being present with it, consciously making
come up with a post about that, haven't we, before? The I think it was like 7 steps to like not basically curb cravings or something like that, whereas it's like have a glass of water before you actually need to eat, or I think it was first do something else before you feel like going to eat. If that doesn't work, then have a glass of water. If that doesn't work, then go to something, I think it was like have a low calorie healthy snack,
and then fruit,
and then go through something that's just low in calories, that's maybe not so much healthy, like an ice lolly that's sweet. If that, or like a low sugar jelly or something. If that doesn't work, then if you still are hungry and you still want something, then go for what you wanted in the first place. But by the time you get through the steps, like you probably go, I don't need what I wanted in the first place, and I've stuck to my goals. It's very difficult this time of year though, especially if like you're like the lone wolf in the house trying to do something, and it's just like Christmas and with Diwali and stuff, there is going to be so much stuff around, and sometimes I feel like it's easier said than done, like just don't keep it sort of thing. So these things where you sort of try and keep things out of sight, let people know to just put them away in cupboards so you don't see them or whatever, it can help. And I also think this time of year, this time round, it's going to be very different. So think about Diwali, you're not seeing anyone this year, like well, you might be if you're being a bit cheeky and not following the rules, but if you're actually sticking to what has been told, like don't go see your friends and family and stuff, you're not going to anyone's house and no one's coming to yours. So when you think of it like that, you don't need to make masses of food for people, because normally the thing that people do is like, oh, I want to make Diwali food, one, because they like it themselves, but also they say it's for other people, and then they end up eating a lot of it themselves. This time round, you could generally make a portion just for yourself if you really want it, or just avoid it altogether. And while you may be like, oh, but it's this time of year, that's what it's about, that's what you created the association with. Do you get what I mean? That you created that association that you have to have a chakri or have like mithai and barfis and stuff like that. Sadie's like, what the hell? But
I was just gonna say, guys, I
like Indian sweets and Indian snacks and stuff. But like,
I get you.
All these foods that you have to have. So like at Christmas time, when it comes to like mince pies and like having more alcohol maybe, and having
chocolates and celebrations,
and snacks and celebrations and all the things that people give you during Christmas time. This year might be a bit different, because you're not going to have loads of Christmas parties. You're not going to have friends events and get-togethers. You're not going to have, hopefully you can, but it's unlikely that you probably will. You're not going to be going out to eat as much for all these Christmas lunches and dinners with friends. Do you have a chance to avoid it? And that doesn't mean you can't enjoy yourself. It just means that maybe you don't need to go crazy this year, and you don't need to create that association with food and that event. You can just create the association.
Do you think it's almost a blessing in disguise for someone that wants to get into shape?
I was just going to say, it makes it easier to kind of stay on track then, doesn't it?
Yeah, but it sounds very boring, because that is that time of year. But does it have to be about that?
No.
Like, if you feel guilty and feel shit about yourself afterwards, does it have to be about that? It could just be something that you just, this year, enjoy for what it is. Like, the celebration of what the event is. Maybe on the day enjoy and not worry about food and not think about what you're eating, and just maybe like indulge under the words that people use, but it doesn't have to be like a month-long binge. Like people will say, "Oh, it's Diwali in November." Even though one day they like, let's write off November. It's Diwali in it's Christmas in December. Let's write off January and December and November, and call it the festive period. And just, you know, you don't have, this could be your year where you don't do that.
Yeah, and I think you can still enjoy these things. Like, you can still enjoy the food and chocolates and alcohol, but don't let it drag on. So enjoy it for that 1 or 2 days or whatever, and then just kind of get back on track.
Yeah, and when it comes to like nutrition and fitness, leave that aside. But what about like well-being, like just generally? Because you know what lockdown can do to people. Like if you're at home, you're stuck indoors. Especially if you live alone or you are in a small family unit. It can be quite lonely, and it can be quite isolating. What would you say to people for those things, like in terms of general well-being and feeling good and feeling happy? What things could you do to just make sure that's not something that goes into like a downside?
Keep reaching out to people. I was going to say spend some time to yourself, but I guess if you're in a small family unit or by yourself, the last thing you want to do is have some more time to yourself. But keep just like reaching out to people and keep in contact with people and stuff like that. I find that is generally quite helpful. Yeah.
Even if it is just a phone call or FaceTime, do you know what I mean? Something like that, so you've still got the interaction with people. And also just like, I think it's important to get out. Like, I know we can't go anywhere, but get out and just walk and stuff like that. So you're not always stuck indoors. You're getting the fresh air when it's not raining and stuff like that. So yeah, I think reaching out to people and getting outdoors is important. Yeah,
no, definitely agree there. I think also having routine and structure in place, especially if you've been like kind of furloughed or working from home, or you know, having some sort of routine in place. I read about someone who the morning commute, so it can be quite therapeutic for most people, although it's quite chaotic if you're going on a train. But like getting ready, having like a breakfast, having like then walking to the station, listening to something on the way to work, can be quite therapeutic for a lot of people. And when it's lost, it's like you're like, oh my god, and like you literally just go straight into work, then it's about work, and then you finish work, and then you're doing your normal daily things, and then you go home and go to sleep kind of thing. It's like you lose a bit of that time. So having something in place where you go, I'm going to go for a 5-minute walk, and that could replace my commute to work, or I'm going to still get ready, as opposed to like you don't have to like put on like normal work stuff that you'd put on, but like doing your hair, for example, as opposed to just getting out of bed and rolling into the laptop. That sort of thing can help feeling good and just feeling like your day's a bit more organized,
normal as well, bit of normality still.
And I think another one is like, if you do live in a busy house and you are like literally just spending your time with your kids and that, like having a bit of you time is really important as well. So generally just like spending, even if it's 5 minutes in the morning before everyone wakes up, to just
do nothing.
Yeah, like just be with yourself, or go for a walk on your own, that sort of thing, is important. And I think a good thing, I think we've discussed a lot on this podcast already, but a good place to probably end is, I think Sadie mentioned it earlier, but acceptance and like changing your perception. So like, what I mean by that is accepting that this is what it is right now.
Oh yeah.
Like, this is just the way life is at the moment. And if you constantly fight the reality of like, oh, I wish we could go out to eat. I wish we could do this. I wish we could go on holiday. I wish we could. You're just constantly going to bring yourself down a bit.
Yeah.
Just accepting what it is, and then maybe changing your perception of what is an ideal environment. Like, if you change your perception of fitness, for example, is a really easy one to go like, oh, the only way you can get fit and strong is in the gym. Or you could go, I could just maintain my strength and fitness at the moment by going on walks and, like Nikhil said, changing your goal a little bit, like changing your perception around what is successful to you. What does it look like to be on track? Is it making constant progress and losing weight and maybe gaining muscle, whatever it is that your goal is? Or is it just not going backwards at the moment? you could change your perception of what success is and what you feel like would make you be on track and be happy.
Yeah.
100%.
And I think it's important, just don't look at it in a negative way. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's so easy to sit here and go, oh, like, this is such a shit situation. Oh, like, actually, it is what it is. And then we just make the most out of it.
Yeah, like we said, it's a good time to focus on other things. Like, potentially it could be a really good, positive period if you want to do certain things or achieve certain things.
And that comes with a caveat. Like, I know there's a lot of people who have come out of this a bit more blessed than others. Like, in terms of, like, if you haven't lost your job and you haven't lost a loved one. You're doing all right for yourself in the grand scheme of things. And then there's a lot of people who are struggling genuinely, and we don't mean to play down on your situation or just tell you to think positively, because it doesn't work like that. But what we mean is just doing the best you can to keep yourself happy in the way that, like, and accepting that this is the reality of it, rather than fighting the reality of the situation you are personally in without being disrespectful to you. You just wanted to add that in before people listening. Like, easy for you to say.
No, exactly. No, we don't mean it like that, definitely.
Yeah. I think that's a good place to end on for today's podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you find that useful, and I hope that it brings you some sort of value. If it does, please let us know. Drop us an email at podcast@bodybeyond.co.uk, and also please leave us a review. It helps with the ranking of these podcasts. So we have a few of you that listen regularly, and it would be great if you do listen every week, then please leave us a review with your thoughts on wherever you're listening to, especially Apple Podcasts. They are all about, it's not about how many people listen to the podcast. They rank it by how you are reviewed and how many reviews you have. So it'd be great to get some reviews on there, and also know what you think. So please do that for us, and share this with someone as well. So if it's brought you value, just send it to a friend. Let them know, like, this is what I listened to. I thought it was useful. Have a listen. And then, spreads the word, and it helps us help more people. Otherwise, we're kind of doing this just to have a chat with each other, which is fine. I'm happy with that. But it would be nice for other people to get value from it as well.
Yeah.
Otherwise, guys, take care. We'll catch you on the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.
Over and out.